Good afternoon and welcome. What a beautiful Thursday. I'm so delighted to be here again today. And I know that we're in this hour by hour, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. I'm excited because Glori Meldrum is here. And I am looking forward to getting to know Glori a little bit better. We're going to find out a lot about Glori. And for those of you who do not know, Glori is the most recent year, 2020, L'Oreal winner, Women of Worth. So she's also the founder and chair of the Little Warriors and the Be Brave Ranch. And she's also an entrepreneur. So she's been around for quite a while. So we're so excited that Glori's here. So please join me in welcoming Glori Meldrum. Glori, hi, look at you. You look fantastic.
As do you, Miss Sally.
Thank you. I'm so delighted that you're here today because you know what? It'll give us a chance to have a great conversation. You can tell me everything you've been up to. And I know that a lot of people in our community know you and know how passionate you've been about Little Warriors and the Be Brave Ranch. But I also know that you're a successful entrepreneur. And congratulations again on being this year's L'Oreal winner.
Thank you so very much.
And we have a little surprise for you. I know I've seen this before, and you've probably seen it a lot, but we're about to, it doesn't matter if we've seen it 10 times, but it's fantastic. So I'm going to, hopefully you're surprised at this. So let's take a look.
My name is Glori Meldrum, and I'm the founder of Little Warriors and the Be Brave Ranch. And today I get the absolute pleasure to welcome you to the beautiful, one and only Be Brave Ranch. So the Be Brave Ranch is the first long-term treatment center anywhere in the world for kids that have been sexually abused, which is pretty amazing. It has been built by Albertans and is the only one of its kind in the entire world. So what we do here, and I'll tell you why it's so special, is that we treat kids that have been sexually abused in a long-term capacity. So our programs last a year with the kids and the families. Every single thing that we do here is research-based.
So the Be Brave Ranch uses multimodal therapy, and one of the therapies that we utilize is group therapy. Children and adolescents are involved in group therapy every day during their time with us and throughout their rounds of treatment. This is one of the group therapy spaces. We call this the Blue Room, and we generally meet with the therapist, at least one therapist, sometimes two, and sometimes Rugby, our therapy dog, joins us for group therapy as well. At Little Warriors Be Brave Ranch, we use various types of therapies and different modalities to support children's healing. One of the things that we do is offer art therapy with an art therapist. Children have the ability to use paint or clay or collage or various types of media to be able to express themselves through their healing journey. At Little Warriors, we offer treatment within a camp-like environment. While the children and adolescents work hard in their therapy, we also like to have a lot of fun. This space behind us is our dining room, and so children and adolescents come together at lunchtime and supper time, as well as to celebrate graduations in this space. Children and youth also participate in psychodrama, and oftentimes the space gets turned into a Harry Potter themed space as we're working on our psychodrama as well.
So we have an unbelievable relationship with the University of Alberta. We also have a scientific review committee, and they review basically all of the outcomes that are happening with the kids that come to the ranch. So we can basically prove that we can reduce PTSD, depression, anxiety, cutting, all of those things that are often consequences of child sexual abuse.
So children and teens do their day-to-day activities in the cabin. Each child or youth has their own personal bedroom. When they first come to the Be Brave Ranch, they get to choose their room, and in their room is a little welcome package of hygiene items and other things so that they can begin their healing journey. Children and teens use their cabins as living spaces. They share movie nights, also, have breakfast together, really enjoy making pancakes or waffles together.
So for more information on how you can get involved with us, and there's many ways that you can, whether it's volunteering, writing a check, doing a third-party event for us, giving us silent auction items, how you actually apply for your kids to get into our program, everything is on our website, and it is at littlewarriors.ca.
Wow.
Thank
Glori,
you.
Incredible. And I hope you didn't mind us playing that. I hope that's one of your favorite videos. And, I have to say, Glori, I know that this is a dream of yours. It's like a quarter of a century, right? To create a safe haven for children who've been exposed to sexual abuse. It's a subject that people often don't like to talk about, but kudos to you. This is incredible, an incredible journey. And to see your dream a reality, it has to be just so profound. Okay. So, so I would love it if you could, with COVID-19 and with everybody, it's been 6-7 weeks now of major crisis for a lot of people as we adapt every day, right? Tell us what's been going on with you and the Be Brave Ranch and Little Warriors. I'm sure it's been a journey the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, you know what? Like everything in life, this is just another place in time. It's interesting watching the video. It actually made me emotional because if you can imagine, after 13 years, we built it. It's been open for 6 years now. And 6 weeks ago, I shut it down, the physical location. So because of COVID, I had to close the physical location. We're still treating 100 kids online that are in our care, but we can't take any new kids. We laid off 85% of our staff. So I'll be honest, is that I cried for a week before I even made the announcement, because it really was like taking apart this unbelievable world-class facility one brick at a time, and was devastating. but we're now working with the government to be declared an essential service, which I think is going to happen in June. So I really do think we'll be reopening in around June, the physical location. And we also have some major announcements that are coming kind of on the programming side that are really cool. But I'm not going to lie, it's tough to see your dream and the goodness that it does in healing these kids, because we can see based on, we're in, I think, 5 medical journals around the world. We would be the Betty Ford or the Mayo Clinic for child sexual abuse in the world. And right now it's closed. There's nobody there, right? So that was a lot tougher on me, because I never ever thought we would close the doors. And now we're in a market that you just have to have faith that people are still going to give. Like, we lost our luncheon, all of our events, it's really hard. And one thing for me is that I think that often there's whispers that we hear in our lives. And my biggest whisper has been to start Little Warriors, and, having faith that no matter what, that God will be there to kind of help us through, and that the money that we need will come in, because we get zero money from the government. So we have no support from any level. And so we rely 100% on people donating. And you can imagine in this climate, with all the layoffs and companies that have gone bankrupt, it's tough. But you know what? I'm a little girl that had a pretty challenging upbringing. I've been through lots of trauma in my life, and I have lots of faith.
We have to have faith. We can't lose faith.
You gotta have faith. Yeah.
And watching the video again, I noticed, corporate Edmonton has been supportive over time, and hopefully they will still be there. I saw Ledcor, Enbridge. There's a whole host of, people, and then individuals as well, right? So, I think that once people regroup, right, Little Warriors and charitable organizations like that can still probably count on people, because, I find that our community is still very much, right, generous, and will open their hearts. As I think everybody had to sort of regroup, and it's like hitting it was a brick wall for small business, huge corporations, individuals. So yeah, I'm praying too, because for a lot of organizations like your own, the luncheon, everything it was like everything turned off. Yeah. Click, click. So that, and then of course, for me, this particular service that you provide, I in the first few weeks, I too was melting down. I made a bunch of calls. You break down crying, because now I'm concerned about children who are, confined in locations that may not be as safe for them. So yeah, and
it's because that's the thing that people, we see the financial side right now of the impact of COVID, but domestic violence is through the roof. Child sexual abuse is through the roof, because often these kids are trapped in the same space as their offender. And, that's the piece. And a lot of the resources have been shut down based on COVID. So these kids literally are trapped in a space and can't get away from their offender. Like, you look at the PTSD and mental health and all of these other things that are coming from it. And, there was a bunch of articles that have come out about how child sexual abuse has gone through the roof. And honestly, I had to stop watching them, because I can only treat right now the 100 kids. Right. And I never stopped crying for a week. Out of everything, my business, I've got 4 kids, and the toughest thing for COVID for me really has been not to do everything that I can for these kids based on the situation, right? So, but I know, here's the thing about Alberta is that it's Alberta's ranch. They built it, they paid for it. I can remember when I bought the facility, and it was like 4 years, it was derelict, it was nasty. And I went to the media and I went to the community and I said, listen, like, we've got to renovate this place, because it's awful. And, Alberta came to the table, I would say, with about $2 million in goods in kind. So roofs, windows, anything we needed, they stepped up. So I'm not worried. I know that, they're God's kids. He'll look after them. And so will Albertans, is that they love Little Warriors. And my favorite story I want to share with people is that when I go and visit the kids at the ranch, they'll say, "You're the lady on YouTube." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And the next thing they say is they're like, "Hey, we heard on YouTube that thousands of people love us and they never even met us." And they're like, "Can you show us, walk us around the building and tell us about all of the people that donated the windows and the roof and the furniture and the rugs and the dishes?" That is the kids' favorite thing, is to know how many people love them. Like, honestly, that's it. They're like, they're happy to be at the ranch, but the fact that they're loved by thousands of people, that really is the beauty in Little Warriors and Be Brave Ranch, is that these kids feel that love from our community. And I'm just so proud of how much everybody, loves all of our Little Warriors.
Oh, it is. It's really, really profound. And, I have to, as an adult, and those of us, like, I have grandkids and I have kids, and Gloria, I have to tell you, I go to your luncheons, and a grown woman that breaks down and cry. We know that this is still a huge, huge problem in our community and in our country and in North America. And all I have to do, I look at all the little kids, and I think they're so defenseless. And oh dear, sorry, Glory. And
I have
all
my
I want to do is, they just want to make you happy, and they're so kind and gentle. And when many years later that grown people come forward, and you can see, like last year, it's so tough, the life that you yourself, right? So I can't imagine. And I've been here every day now for 6 weeks, and in the beginning, I was concerned even about children in the school that were getting school lunch meals and things like this, and now they're confined at home in a situation where they can't defend themselves, Glory. So you ask the community to keep their eyes wide open, and help out where they can.
And I think it's so important that people don't understand. Like for me, I was 8 to 10 when I lived at my grandfather's house. And so 1,100 square feet, I had nowhere to go. Like and people that have been sexually abused, like people say, well, why didn't you say no? Or why didn't you do something? I'm like, I was 8 and my grandfather threatened to kill my mother, to kill my sister, to kill me. I was so scared. By 12, I was suicidal. It's a miracle that I'm here today based on all of the stuff that I've been through. That 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, stage 3, and they didn't know if I would make it because I had a pretty big tumor. And it was another piece of my journey, is getting cancer in the same place that I got raped. People, I think that child sexual abuse is someone, they slapped a kid on a bum, and that's a bad thing. But honestly, the kids that we see at the ranch are from, have been human trafficked, child pornography, cults, like you name it. We've seen everything. And, my wish is someday in my life, like, I see all of this stuff, like people were protesting about COVID at the ledge. It made me really sad. And I'm going to tell you why, is that it's money, and I know we all want to get back to work, but why aren't people at the legislature when there's been a child, raped? Why aren't they at the same legislature defending these kids and saying, this isn't okay. We'll do it for our economy, but this is a defenseless child. And these kids are average age for a boy to be sexually abused is 4, and a girl is kind of 8 to 10. Like, they're tiny. If you think about how small that is, But I don't understand why we're not revolting, honestly, and standing up and saying, right now, we're letting sex offenders out of jail early. And just so everybody knows, the majority of sex offenders are not in jail, by the way. They're actually in community because it's often too hard to prove, because kids don't tell right away. The majority of the time, they often don't tell until they're 18, right?
Well, they're frightened. They're threatened, like you said. They, you know, I can only imagine. And it's 2020, Glori, and we know better as a society. And I agree with you. Yes,
we do know better.
We're all, we know better. And
we've got to, as the adults, it's our responsibility. We maybe couldn't, in some cases, you know, like protect them because I wasn't there, you know, with a lot of these kids. But when we know that they've been violated in such a bad way, like, why is it so hard to raise money? Why are we living, you know, month to month? It doesn't make any sense. Like, this is the rape of our children, our grandbabies, our daughters, our sons. Like, it really, I cannot believe how difficult it is to get this on the agenda, to raise suitable money. Like, even before COVID, we were only operating at 35%. So we used 15 out of 60 beds a month because that's what we had money for. So we have a 15-month wait list. And because of money, we can't get kids help. And we know if they don't get help, they'll more than likely turn to prostitution. Like 90% of prostitutes have been sexually abused. You want to stop prostitution? Stop child sexual abuse. You know, drugs, alcohol, suicide, mental health. Like, this is the early intervention piece to treat these kids. And we know that our program works because it's all, you know, research-based, is that we need to care about child sexual abuse like we do about COVID or oil and gas. Like, those are things and situations that are important, but there is nothing more important than our children. Nothing, right? Nothing more important than God's kids, right?
I've always said the wealth of a nation are its children.
100%.
And we all have a responsibility to keep everyone's children safe. There should be zero tolerance for this sort of behavior. I personally believe that, you know, we're not tough enough on these situations. It's unfair. These children are defenseless. You know, I look back sometimes. I mean, you look back on your childhood and you think how precarious that was too, right? I mean, for those of us who managed to, you know, live through other kinds of challenges, you know, praise be to God, right? That didn't happen, but it could have. It certainly could have. And so for me to think that we're in 2020 and this is going on and it's rampant, you know, around the world, but let's talk about cleaning up our own backyard.
100%.
Zero tolerance for this, Glori. Come on, you know.
If you add in there kind of child pornography, and human trafficking, like, people are like, well, it doesn't happen in Edmonton. I'm like, there's kids as young as 8, 10 years old being human trafficked in Edmonton. And so for me, like, it drives me crazy that we get, you know, economy and money. And I get those things. Trust me, I'm an entrepreneur. But why it's so few of us that are like, this is bullshit. This is enough. People shouldn't rape our kids. If they do, they go to jail for life, because we know we can't rehabilitate sex offenders. And that people are giving money. And with us, when you give it to us, we know we're healing those kids. We can actually prove it, that the money that you give us heals these kids. But it's still so hard because people don't want to admit that humans rape little humans or molest little humans. If you look at cancer, and it can be random, heart, stroke, all those things. Child sexual abuse is not random. They are hunters, they are monsters, they are predators. And people think too, like, that it's like the creepy person in the van going around the school. That's 3 to 5% of the time. 95 to 98% of the time, it's someone the kid knows that's close to the family. Just like it was for me with my grandfather, right? Is that it's the people that we trust that are.
I know that this is horrible. It's
Yeah.
just totally horrifying. So I think that, and I know you said earlier it's hard to prove, but trust me, people need to listen more. Glori, when I look back on my childhood, I'm sure you do too. We remember things, and little children really can't make up stuff like this.
It's a really good point, Sally, is that if you look at the statistics, 99% of the time, the kids are telling the truth. Like 99% is that, think about it, if you're 4, how do you know what a penis does? Like you don't know those things. And that's why we also too, not only do we have the Be Brave Ranch, but we have a prevention program called Prevent It. And we've developed this program with the U of A. It's in medical journals around the world. And you can take it for free by going to our website and learn how to protect your kids, watch for, signs and symptoms and how offenders behave to protect your kids, right? Is that every single person, I think we maybe like train 600 people a month. That's it, really. It's a free program. Why isn't every Canadian, every North American taking that program to do what's their responsibility to protect their kids and learn about it, right? Is that's our duty, is to protect these kids. Like, as I mentioned, like I've got 4 of my own. My children are my passion, my love, my life. And when I go out to the ranch and I meet some of these kids for the first time, most of them won't even look me in the eye. They're just so broken. And the most beautiful piece of kind of going to the ranch is a year later when they graduate, I see the life and the love back in their eyes. And honestly, that's when I've got tough days and I worry about funding and all of that stuff. I think about that, and that, I pray that the money always comes, and I pray that the government at some point, instead of seeing us as really progressive and not fitting into their funding buckets, says, wow, these guys are world class. Why wouldn't we help them, both provincially and federally? Because they should be helping us. It reduces what people are going to utilize in the healthcare side later on, right? So it is my dream that, people stand up more and join me and the other advocates, and that, we get the funding that we need to heal these kids, and that people care as much about kids being raped as they do about someone cutting them off in traffic. Like, honestly, people I see on Facebook are more mad that whether it's Safeway didn't deliver flowers or something wasn't open. And it's like, you just heard about this case and this kid's, been raped, and there's no comment. Or my other favorite thing is everybody is really mad. They're like, oh, this is awful. And then my comment always is, what are you going to do about it? I could have looked in the mirror when I had the vision to do this and said, I am so busy with my businesses, like God pick somebody else. But I didn't. Is that instead of being mad, do something about it. Like you're doing today and discussing this, is that people underestimate how powerful they are. I am a little girl from Miramichi, New Brunswick, that was, raped by my grandfather, like horrible situation, suicidal, and I created the Be Brave Ranch. We have so much power and so much love and so much compassion that, and people will say to me, they're like, you're an entrepreneur, that's how you did it. I'm like, no, I had no idea how to do it. I just knew it needed to be done, so I did it. Is that, I talk lots about listening to the whispers from God of things that he asks us to do, and just to do them, right? Doesn't mean Little Warriors has not been easy, right?
What you've created here is just phenomenal. And I think, throughout your experience, you become extraordinarily tough, thank you, and resilient. And, in recent times and last year, in talking to a mutual friend of ours, we see a need for similar type of situation, not just here, but throughout North America. And we as adults, right, and we know better, right? I think part of it is it's a subject matter people do not want to talk about, okay?
Agreed.
Number one. but people need to talk about this. And this is going on right around us, in our city, in our towns, in you know,
In our neighborhoods.
in homes that it would blow people's minds that it's occurring. Okay. And, you know, humanity, when you think of humans and you think of this, I'm going, seriously? Like, this should never happen. And if you, you know, I understand how, you know, people, adults get raised or whatever, they've had their issues, right? So people always say, well, you know, abusers grow up to be abusers and whatever. I don't believe that. I believe that it can't.
That's actually a myth.
Yeah, I believe that you can change that because we know better. We can speak out, right? We, you know, so we need to educate the children to speak. We need to believe them, and we also need to have stronger. Uh, oh, gee, you know, this thing just drives me insane, Gloria, because it's hard to even, you know, think about it, right?
Imagine, Sally, if we had the resources that we're putting into COVID and we put them into child sexual abuse. You know, whether you know that if you look at there's a study called ACE that if you've been sexually abused as a child, you're more likely to get cancer, heart, stroke, mental health. It's tied physically, not just to prostitution, drugs, alcohol, all of those things. Like, this would save the healthcare system billions of dollars to get in and intervene early with these kids. And it's the right thing to do. Yeah, it is the right thing to do.
I think it's from right at square one. It has to come back in like kindergarten. And sooner you need to talk about it. Parents need to be talking about it. And majority of parents love their children. And I know from a personal level, like even with our grandkids, I know that my daughters have talked to the children about it. But, you know, even as grandparents, right, we're also very careful, and we have to be. And, you know, I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, and, you know, when I get to spend time with her and you know, we're playing and whatever, I mean, I've asked her, and, you know, at 5, they're pretty smart. So, you know, it's educating them a little, and they need to be able to feel free to talk about all of this. And, you know, I think that you know, I know that a few years ago, it's like trafficking. We talked about human trafficking in our country, and I think they increased the, you know, jail time to about 3 years. Okay, 3 years for human trafficking. I mean, yes, they made some inroads in it. I'm not sure if since 5 years ago that's changed, but I think the penalties have to be far greater. How do you stop this? Okay, first, I think you educate the children and the parents, but you have to have stricter punishment, Glor.
To be really honest, though, the thing with the punishment side, so even in the US, they've tried chemical castration, they've tried all of these different things in the law. None of them have worked. So the only reason that I think that they should be in jail is because we know on average that a sex offender abuses 75 to 125 different kids. So if they're in jail, they can't abuse any more kids. But once they're an offender over the age of 18, they're never going to stop doing what they're doing. And the problem is that I would think that 90 to 95% of actual sex offenders are actually in the community. People don't know who they are, and about 5 to 10% are actually in jail. Yeah. So when it's interesting, it will statistically, the majority of kids, look at how we portrayed, you know, Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson. Like, if you were a kid watching the news, and I remember my daughter said to me, "Mommy, why are people defending him? Like, why are they saying that this is okay and they're a nice person and they've done this to kids?" Is that if you were a child watching the news, would you want to go tell your mommy what happened? Right? Kids watch the news, they understand. And in a lot of instances, we make these people celebrities, right? Like, I can remember when my mom took me to children's services and the police and all of that, when I told her when we moved out of the house, And they actually said to my mom, they're like, your daughter's a liar. He's the crosswalk guard at the elementary school. He's a really nice man. So when I was little and did the right thing, they never even investigated my grandfather. They actually told him that I had accused him. Imagine how scared I was. And I never went back until in my 30s and actually had him charged.
Wow.
Yeah, which he was convicted. And would you like to know his sentence? There was 3 women that came forward that he abused his kids, and he got 6 months community service. That's the type of sentences that are happening.
Well,
6 months community service.
that's horrible. That's, boy, I'm telling you, they're lucky I'm not in charge, Lori.
Yeah, me either. Yeah.
I have zero tolerance for this. I'm telling you, like,
Zero tolerance.
And some of it's
We need
tough.
to stay away from our kids, and we need to say, you know what, enough of this shit. We demand resources for these children, and we do what's right by them, because right now we are not. We are not.
Lori,
I'm a big faith person, and even if you look in the Bible about like that passage about how God look, you know, don't mess with my kids, like they're my children, and yet every day kids are being human trafficked, child pornography, sexually abused in their homes by coaches, priests, you name it. There isn't any industry that hasn't been involved with it. But what are we doing as a society? Really very little. And, you know, for me, I look at, we built this facility. Why is it so difficult for us to stay alive financially? Like, I want to build an adult facility, but I can't even get enough money to fill my beds that I have now. Like that, it's crazy. And it's the only one in the world. It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Well, you take, as you said, right, how many years for adults to come forward, for people to believe that these things happen. But in the meantime, to get to your 30s, right, think of all of the craziness, right? You've lost your childhood, you've lost your young adult life. It really is, you know, it's an egregious situation in so-called civilized
society
countries. Okay.
Well, what's interesting is that as soon as that happens to you, it's over. There is no childhood. Like I don't remember. All I remember is trying to stay out of the way, hide under a bed, behind a door. I mean, my grandfather was so cunning, and that's why I call sex offenders hunters. Is that, you know, we lived in 1,100 square feet, so there was like the kitchen and then the bathroom. So one of the things as a little girl is I would always get kidney infections and bladder infections. And the reason is that I never wanted to go to the bathroom because my grandfather broke the lock on the bathroom door so that he could sexually abuse me when I was peeing or I was in the bath. And this is like, it is like kitchen, bath, like that's how calculating. There was no escaping him, right? All there was for me was disassociating, right? Is that when I was being abused, was going somewhere else, right? And, you know, it took me a lot of years to not disassociate from the memory or the situation, is that to be in it and feel it, because, you know, as a kid, I just armored up, so I did what I needed to do. And that's that warrior piece to stay alive, or I wouldn't be alive. I would have slipped both my wrists at 12 and, you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right?
Well, this is the whole point. Like, how do you come back from this? Like as a child, or as you say, like a 10-year-old girl, right? I don't understand.
Well, I think the first thing is that, you know, like honestly, you could get a hip replacement quicker than if your child was sexually abused. Like imagine we're telling parents we don't have enough money, so your kid has to wait 15 months. They've come forward, they've gone to court, they've done all the great things, but sorry, there's not enough money because we only have 15 beds open out of, you know, 50 some, right? Like, so first of all, we've got to put the resources in the right places, is that give them help. We do it for cancer patients. We do it for heart and stroke and Mazankowski, and we've built a Mazankowski that isn't a heart institute, but it is the best treatment program in the world for these kids. Let's fund it. Let's give them their childhood back. Let's allow them to have that opportunity to heal and grow up and be a healthy adult and contribute the way in which I have. I think the most beautifully broken people in the world are the ones that have the most to give, and that they're game changers because they understand what it's like to be alone and abandoned and violated. You know, I have so much compassion and love, you know, for humans. And because I've been there, you know, I mean, I shared last year, I mean, at the luncheon, after I got cancer and finished my treatment, I had a 14-month nervous breakdown. I ended up in a partial hospitalization. In the US, I was basically under suicide watch because I had done really well dealing with my trauma as I got older. And then all of a sudden, my grandfather kind of came back from the dead. I had a cancerous strand of HPV. The next thing you know, I've got full-blown cancer in the same place that I got violated, and it pushed me over the edge. And by the grace of God, honestly, because I would say within that 14 months, there was more than one time that I looked at a bottle of sedatives and was like, you know what, like, I think I've had enough, right? And that's why, you know, when people don't think that they can come through it, I say to them, listen, I did. And, you know, I have been through many, many dark storms in my life, and I always come through, and it's my faith and that allows me to be able to do that. Without faith, I don't even think I would be here, right? Especially after the last journey with cancer.
Wow. No, I mean, I think you have to dig deep, the fabric and the strength, the resilience. You know, what about those kids who don't, you know, they get lost, they get so totally lost. But I think as a society, Glori, this should be number one. I keep saying that, how we treat our own little people. We're humans. I'm sure that people think more about their pets, and it's true. I wrote down a lot, Glori, like lately, you know, when like I have friends who, you know, who are CMP officers and things like that. You wouldn't believe, you know, the last 6 weeks, it's even worse, as you said. And children that are in, and right here, we're talking here.
You would not believe the Facebook messages that I get from kids and their parents telling me what's happened and just begging to come to the ranch, right? Like, it is, that is one of the harder parts of the things that I have to do, because I'm not a psychologist, but often they want to talk to me because they know that I've been where they are and they trust me, right?
Right.
And so, or like, I've been at the keg, the hairdresser, every place, even in Maui, and people are like, you know, you're the little Warriors lady. And I'm like, yeah. And they'll hug me. I had a 66-year-old man hold me, not let go of me, and said, you're the only person I've ever told.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is, it's interesting because people will say, I want to build ranches everywhere else. I'm like, we have one that's not full. And until it's full.
See Michael Collins here. Do you see his comment? Yeah. Do you see this comment?
Yeah, I do see the comment from a good friend of mine, actually, Michael, is that right now we fly those kids in from BC, Newfoundland, Nunavut. Like, we've got to maximize the capacity. I mean, our treatment center really is a research center as well, is that we've got to fill this one, make it successful, make it world-class, get it full, and then we look at other areas, because all it is a flight. Like, to do a project like this, I think we've raised about 30 million, in around there, 25, 30 million over 13 years. Is that, why would you rebuild that infrastructure when one isn't full, right?
Exactly. So, for each,
I just wanted to, there's a question on the screen about sterilization is one way. It actually isn't. And I'm going to tell you why, is that when it is a pedophile, which a pedophile is attracted to children, okay? When they're a sex offender, it's about power and control. So my grandfather was not a pedophile, okay? It was about power and control. He still would have done what he did because it wasn't about sexual gratification for him. It's actually very similar to domestic violence. It's control and power. on the pedophile side, it's different, right? So sterilization, unfortunately, the majority of it is that the power and the control piece, right? So
Right.
I just wanted to answer that. I saw that question come up on the screen.
Yeah. I wondered if that was actually one way.
No, they've got to be in jail, locked away forever, and throw away the key. Because if they're not, they're going to come out and reoffend. There's no research out there that you can rehabilitate these individuals once they become adults. Yeah.
You know, so, this may be a little out there, but when I think of the destruction, right, potentially to a human child, when this is allowed to continue, is it still the same as destroying another human by murdering them? I don't know. But maybe the penalties need to be very harsh, right?
Here's the thing, is that why our, and I mean, I have the whole other thing of the legal system is that, you think about 25 years, that's the maximum, but our parole system and our justice system is not a justice system. It is a joke as far as I'm concerned. Why are people that rape kids, right? Rape them. Why are they spending, if they even get convicted, a couple of years in jail? My God, like that is criminal. But people aren't at the legislature marching on that. I remember one time I did a march and we barely had any people. Like, people need to give a shit. They need to care about these kids or it's never going to change, right?
And I'm sitting here and thinking, do I really want to spend the money and keep you in jail? What for? So do you see where I'm going with this harsh penalty thing?
But we're in Canada, and in the US, it's very different depending on the state. But, capital punishment isn't something, based on data and stuff that I've seen I don't think it'll ever come back to Canada. So I think the best we can do is lock them up. And I mean, if you think about somebody that commits a white collar crime and, steals computers or, marijuana, whatever it is, why are they getting treated more like criminals than people raping children? Could somebody explain that to me? Why do we care more about petty crimes than people raping our children? Like, it's time to wake up, stand up, get our shit together as a country and protect these kids, right? It is so disturbing how complacent we are as Canadians while our kids are getting raped. And it's not rich, poor, they come from all walks of life. And you know what? We're just sitting around. What are we doing? Even politicians that I know that were like, Glori, when I get into politics, I'm going to help you. Guess how many did? Zero salary.
Zero.
It's
really about the subject matter, and perhaps maybe people are in denial about how rampant this problem still is. It's not going away.
It's getting worse with the internet and human trafficking. It's way worse.
As a little girl, I dreamt so many cool things when you get to the year 2000, and now we're 2020, and I'm going, wait a minute. This is all these things are worse than ever, and really, society give your head a shake. We know better. We're educated. We know that this stuff is wrong and it's happening. So I agree, Glori. There's a lot, these children they need adults to defend them and protect them. And
it's time to honestly for Canadians to stand up and say, we're done with this shit. We're done with it not being funded properly, because I don't believe in funding organizations that aren't proven to work. That's one thing I always say to the government. I'm like, we're in medical journals, we're accredited, we've got all of the data, we reduced PTSD by 50% in these kids. And so we've got to demand what we want from our politicians. But even it's funny, like asking, I remember a couple of times I was like, can people write letters to the MP and the Minister of Justice and all of that? And but people would complain and then not write the letters. So eventually I'd say, listen, if you're just going to complain, don't do it on my Facebook page. If you're not willing actually to do something, right, and just be ignorant and lazy and go watch a TV show, then don't be mad that, that somebody didn't get the proper sentence or what happened to a child. Being ignorant and not acting, Like, it's shameful. It really, really is shameful, right? Like, stand up, do something. I mean, my husband and I have a number of businesses. I have 4 kids. I got a special needs daughter that we adopted. I'm crazy busy, but you know what? It is so important to me that these kids know that they're loved and helped. Guess what? I am crazy. I wake up in the morning and I go to bed late at night because I have dedicated my life to helping these kids. And I need help, and I need other people to stand with me and say, you know what? Raping a child is wrong, and we're going to have resources for them. And these monsters and hunters and horrible people are going to go to jail, right? But we got to care first. That's the first steps. We've built the facility to treat them, but we can only do what people give us the funding to do and support us and join us in having a voice, right? So we're doing everything that we can. And what I'd ask everybody listening, are you, right?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to figure out how to get all those rooms of yours open.
Filled. You got it.
So I'm not sure if you're able to tell us what it costs to operate one room or have one person there. But sometimes, sounding out a number, right? So right now, you were operating how many rooms out of 51? I think it was.
So we have roughly, it's I think about 58 beds.
58
and
beds.
We were operating at about 15 before COVID. So to give you an idea, so we have a full security team out there. The ratio when you're working with kids is a lot of adults to children. So it costs money to run a program like ours. Mm-hmm. And so for a 1-year treatment program for a child and their family, if they're from the ages of 8 to 12, it costs us $25,000. And that's nothing. That is saving a kid from all of this horrible stuff later on. And if a kid is 13 to 16, to treat them and their family is $10,000 a year. So we're not even talking massive numbers, right? We're not. And we know that with this investment that we're reducing post-traumatic stress disorder, which is what causes these kids to get into prostitution and drugs and alcohol and suicide. It's like the root in the ground. It's not that much money compared to what it's to save a kid's life. 10 to 25,000 is a lot of money to heal a family and a kid. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. Yeah. And that's with us, by the way. We have a list on our website. 85% of all the money that comes in goes to the treatment of kids. And then the rest goes to administration, admin. We are really efficient. We mow our own lawn. We do our own cleaning. We remove our own snow. You don't get any more efficient than us. We put every single dollar into helping these kids, right? Every single dollar, right? Every single.
Okay, so let's talk about. It sounds like perhaps May is what it's sounding like with protocol and various things.
June, Sally. I think June, hopefully we're working on all of the applications and that the medical office and the government will declare us an essential service. We're confident about it, that we will reopen. We're thinking the timeline looks like June, right? And you can email your MLA and say, listen, Little Warriors isn't an essential service. Why? Because of COVID. We should be able to we'll wear masks, we'll do everything that they're saying, but kids should not have no access to treatment.
True.
Because of COVID, right?
I agree, and they need to. If everything we're hearing medically about COVID, right? What percentage of children, right? As long as the adults around them.
Yeah, it's 1 in 3 girls will be sexually abused.
Right.
And it's 1 in 5 boys. So run those COVID numbers against those. I'm telling you right now that child sexual abuse is a bigger pandemic around the world than COVID ever will be, right? It's not that it's not bad, but if we want to look at numbers, start doing the math, right?
Okay. Okay. So we need to, you will continue to put pressure, but we need to put pressure to make the Be Brave Ranch essential and open it up. But you know what? I think that we need to focus and get all the beds open by June 1st.
Yeah.
You said you
And,
had you have a waiting list. You said that?
Yeah, we have a 15-month wait list, and that was before COVID. I'm not even sure what it is now. And I want to say too, Sally, like, you know that I'm starting this legacy cabinet of people that are influencers like you that are helping kind of introduce us to people that have money that could help us. And you were one of the first people that you're like, I'm in, Glori, whatever you need. So I want everybody to know there's lots of people I ask and they're like, yeah, I'm too busy. I got this. You're like, I'm in. You know, so I really appreciate how much you love our kids and that you actually walk the talk. And I tell people, you do business, if you love Little Warriors, do business with the people that support us, right? Because then they'll support us more. And you've been to every luncheon I think I've ever had, right? And, you know, when I started that,
crying, you know, I mean, like, you know, and you know what? I'm not embarrassed. Like it's
should be crying, Sally. We should be crying.
But you know, but I remember still. I think every one of us remembers being a child, Glori.
Mm-hmm.
What's your earliest memory? You know, I've asked my mom, and sometimes I ask her about things, and she said, "Oh, you were 4." Right? Did you see? So, but and I was honored, Glori, when you know you and Karen asked me. Thank you. Because
you're a community leader, Sally, like you, and that's why too, you're like, when you asked me to do this, is that there's never been anything I've ever asked you for and you've ever turned me down for Little Warriors. And same with Karen Decor. Karen has been involved with Little Warriors since the very first day I had the idea. You know, like there's so many beautiful people and companies that have stood up with me and stood beside me. And I love each and every one of you. Honestly, like there's no greater gift that you can ever give to me than supporting my Little Warriors kids. I don't want anything but that, right? That's all it matters to me, right?
I can tell you that, you know, I was honored, and, you know, Karen and I and a whole host of people, we were so disappointed that, you know, that little gathering on the,
I think I'm going to do it virtually.
Was shut down, wasn't it? Or the
18th? It was. But I think I'm going to do it virtually, Sally, and get us all together by Zoom, and we can all have our glass of wine, and we'll talk about kind of the next steps in filling up all the behind me. I get it. And you know what? If there's people that are watching that want to be involved in connecting us to people that have the means to be able to give, is to reach out to either you or Karen or me, because it really is that introduction to, you know, the people that are in the position that can help us, right? And so I do think I'm going to do that legacy cabinet by Zoom because it's so important. Yeah.
You know, it's a great idea. And right from the beginning, several weeks ago, you know, I'm a fan of Danny Hooper, despite the fact that, you know, the odd person goes, well, you know, he says, you know, things that insult us. Well, no, it's all in jest and fun. So about 6 weeks ago, you know, I was talking to him and of course to Faye, and, you know, I was all of a sudden going, okay, what are you guys doing? How can we do this? How can we use virtual, and can we raise, you know? So tomorrow for Junior Achievement, they're going to try virtually, right? And I think it's terrific. They're, you know, it's a 1-hour program. I don't know if you got the email, probably, right? And I think they're delivering you know, whatever, and you're there for 1 hour, and we'll see how that works. But it's along the same lines as that, you know, I was thinking, you know, about some of the seminars and whatever we get involved in. So maybe we need to explore how we do the luncheon, but virtually, right? You know, it's a lot.
Well, and it's interesting. Yeah, between losing the luncheon, I mean, I don't think it'll happen in October. I guess we'll see. But between losing the luncheon, the golf tournament, the gala, and all of our events, we'd be in. It's $1 million that we have to, in this market, really quickly find.
So
that's a big number.
Prime Minister Trudeau has come forward, and, you know, he's talked about this huge sum of money to support charities. So I haven't explored what that means, but I think it means different things for different charitable organizations. So how do you see yourself tapping into that, or is that something available to Little Warriors? Some of the funding?
Yeah, I think we qualify under that. So I think on the federal side, I actually prefer dealing with those guys better actually than provincially. But on the federal side, we've applied. But really, this is going to blow your mind, Sally, what I'm going to tell you. So Children's Services has like a new hub system that you can be a hub or a spoke when it comes to funding. Guess who got denied on all of the funding requests?
Who? You?
We did.
What?
$0 provincially. Nothing.
That's crazy.
And I'd like to say that we have all of the research. We have world-class research from the U of A, which is our partner, that has validated everything we did. We got turned down on every single provincial one from Children's Services. How sad is that?
Very sad.
Shameful, right? Shameful.
Because right now, not only are children we're talking children are at risk, not just on this level, but it's total abuse. Okay. Even if somebody's at home beating and starving their children, that's all wrong too. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
You may not be, sexual abuse is one, and it's egregious, but these kids are all they're exposed to all of it. Okay. And, I think that we locally and as a society, there has to be zero tolerance for this sort of behavior, period. We have
zero tolerance and funding, right?
But we need funding. I agree. But we all, like I said, I think the goal is, Glori, to,
let's fill those beds.
All your beds by June. Okay. That is not, to me, that's not insurmountable, Glori. And I really want to know, why is it that you got turned down? I don't understand. This is an essential service, Glori.
I will say the government's been really good in helping us get back operationally as an essential. It's a different department though. We've only had issues on the children's service side. Everybody else in the government, the MLAs, they've all been good, but they don't control that part of the budget. So it's not the MLAs, it's not Jason, it's not any of those guys. For some reason on the children's services, we just keep getting denied on the funding side. And it's been that way through 3 governments, although we have all the research, all the data, all the proof, world-class facility. I can't figure it out.
So what about
So to be really honest, I focus most of my efforts on raising money privately because the return on investment, trying to get money from the government, it's just hasn't been worth it. So it's the individuals that will get us those beds filled. And hopefully someday we get to have another chat and I'm, giving politicians a great big hug and saying, thank you so much for stepping in and stepping up for these beautiful, beautiful children. That's another dream of mine, is to be a partner with the Alberta and the federal government.
Fantastic. So one last question, federally, what about the federal grant money? Do you qualify for any of that? Federal money right now, COVID money.
Yeah, so we've got applications in for the federal money. So, and I believe some of it there's some money, Edmonton Community Foundation, big thank you to them. So there was some funding that came through the governments to them, and they just, I think, gave us around 27,000. So we're so grateful for that. So we're applying for everything every day. We're on top of every single announcement, and we're applying, and that's really kind of all we can do. But it's the people that have always really funded Little Warriors, and that I think that's our easier way to funding the beds than the government side. And
one other question, and I guess this is a broad stroke for all charities. So the federal program that came out, is there a maximum that charities can apply for?
Well, here's the thing, is that there's been banks, they're like, we're going to match up to 250,000, but it's 5,000 to charity. That's not going to, it's insignificant, right? And so, it's, I believe that organizations that are research-based, that have proof, should be where the money goes, because it's my tax dollar. I want to fund things that I know have unbelievable outcomes. And Little Warriors is one of those things. And it's all of a way for all of us to leave a legacy that when we're not here, that we looked after our kids, right?
Right.
It's so important.
So I cannot believe that we've been on for an hour. My gosh.
Have you really?
Thank you. Yes. So you see, you know, this is such an, you know, an amazing topic, and it really should, hopefully it be at the forefront of everyone's mind. And yes, thank you to the Edmonton Community Foundation for their donation that will open one bed, right?
It will, 100%. You just saved one kid, right?
And so I think that maybe we need to get on a phone campaign. You know, I mentioned this about 6 weeks ago to a friend of mine, and he's a musician and whatever. So I was telling him, I grew up with the, you know, remember the Jerry Lewis telethons where they had people answering the phone?
Yeah, back in the day.
So of course, I mean, I think what Jerry Lewis? I said, yeah, I love those, and I said, I'm not that much older than you, but I really.
No, let's do it. I love that idea.
Let's do a telethon. Come on.
Let's do a telethon.
You know, that's what I said about
we
it.
Can do it right across the country.
Yeah, man the telephones, and you know, why not? And you know what, Glori, it's $25,000, right, for 1 year to save a child and a child's family.
And their family. Yeah.
And their family. And you know, it's a charitable donation, right?
I mean, tax receipt.
Yeah, you get a tax receipt for this. So, you know, I know everybody's concerned about cash flow and money, but I think that we have it in us. Look at the money they're raising, you know, with all the musical telethons. You saw that 160 million and all kinds of things, right? But this, for me, you can make an immediate difference, right, in someone's life. You can. So I want.
Well, you can change it, right? That's the big piece. I see Roseanne on here, and who's a good friend of mine, and she's sponsored one child and done much more than that. So it's neat to see some of our donors. Michael Collins as well has been on here. Steve Cakes, like, you know, it's nice to see a bunch of our donors that, oh, there's Dorothy, who I love. Like, there's been, you know, so many people popping up that have been by my side every single step of the way, that whatever I need from them, they're there, right?
Oh my God, Carrie,
saying that they'll work the phones on a telethon. I love it.
Okay.
I bet you Global or CTV, someone would do it for us. Yeah.
Well, you know what? It doesn't take long. We're going to do I think we need to do this. We really do. Okay.
And then you can spend more time together, and I'd love that.
Yeah, I know. This is great.
And we'll pull Karen in as well. She doesn't even know, but we'll pull her in.
Oh, yeah, no, I talk to her all the time. I told her you were on here today, but she doesn't have Facebook, so I was encouraging her to like open it up again. Yeah. But you know, this stays on Facebook. It's on YouTube as well. So please, if you missed today, you know, tell a friend, have them watch again. And Glori, we're going to drop and go, and I'm going to talk to Karen, meaning drop the ground. We're at the telethon. We are going to open all your beds by June. So you need to, okay?
I'll be keeping it on the floor if that happens.
Okay.
I tell you,
I don't know.
That would be a dream, like just the ultimate dream, that we didn't have to turn away kids from around the country. Because 50% of our kids come from across Canada, and then 50% are from Alberta, and about 35% of our kids are Indigenous kids. That would be kind of our makeup. Yeah. So,
and I'm not sure if Karen shared any of our the discussions she and I have had about where we want to see this go, but it's huge, okay? Because the problem is the problem is huge, so it needs to be huge. And you know, I promised my daughter last year. I showed up for lunch. Well, we flew in, and then we met them at Earl's at Ambleside, where the water is, you know, and they give us our favorite little table, and I saw the two children, and then I saw two other kids sitting at the next table, and I just couldn't speak because I looked at them, and they're so beautiful, and they were playing with the other children at the table. Nobody knows each other, but it was kind of fun. And then I remembered a very horrific story that had aired the day before, and I broke down crying. I couldn't speak in the Earls. Everybody was concerned that, you know, that something was really wrong. Maybe I was having an aneurysm or a heart attack, right? You just kind of, but It's about those innocent children, okay? And
Well,
how precious
love
they are. You know?
I noticed Brandy's just come in to give me the pull me out into
Okay,
it.
Brenda, it's time to go. I know. Anyway, thank
But
you.
I love you lots, and thanks for everybody for listening, and thanks for all that you do, Miss Sally. Love you lots.
Thank you too, and thank you so much for doing this. You know, you are a strong, resilient woman. That was our local Glori Meldrum. Thank you, Glori, for sharing your story with us today. It's not easy. I mean, it's just incredible what you have done and how many children you've helped, and you know, you persevere in the challenges. So I just want you to know that we're here, and I think we can do this. And I look forward to you announcing in June, when you're open again, that all the beds are open, Glori. And God bless you and keep you safe. And for anyone that's out there listening, yes, the numbers across the stream, you know, we'll stream it again, but Little Warriors is easy to find. And thank you for being with us today. And yeah, we went over a little, but I think I'd like to play, right, this little video we have of Glori as I say goodbye today. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1 p.m. It is Friday, and our Feel Good Friday. So we're going to feel a lot better if we start opening Glori's, you know, beds for all of these children who need our help. So, and Glori, congratulations again. Well deserved, right? 2020 recipient of L'Oreal Paris Women of Worth. And we are going to queue up this little video and play this. I hope it's okay. Thank you, Glori. God bless you, and we will talk again.
You have treated each and every one of us so beautifully, in the way you've treated us, but also in giving us an opportunity on the platform to share our work, to meet all of the other 9 women. Oh, what a gift. What an absolute gift. My life has been one of lots and lots of struggles. You heard in my video, my grandfather was a serial child molester. I lived there for 2 years. When I came out and I told people what had happened, nobody believed me. My family didn't, the cops, the social service, the mental health organizations. He was a good man. He was a crosswalk guard at my elementary school. And from that day, my family disowned me. They had nothing to do with me. I was the dirty child. What were you wearing? What did you do? How did you provoke him? And so it's interesting, just the name of Women of Worth is that I've always struggled with it, because that tape plays in your mind from when you're a little girl. And For me to be here today, I'm so grateful. When Tana was talking about the cancer, 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. So I got cancer in the same place that I was raped, probably from my grandfather. And I honestly, if you would, I never ever thought I'd be standing up here. I never thought I'd make it. I really didn't. So I'm just so grateful to be alive. I'm just so grateful to be here. I love the children that come to the ranch. It's interesting, and really quickly is when they come, they'll say, "Oh, you're Glori, I saw you on YouTube." And because they all watch. And we have about a 15-month wait list. And we're the only place in the world. And it's funny when they walk around and they're like, thousands of people love us, right? Because I always say that on YouTube. And they're like, I say, yep. And they're like, take me around the property and tell me all those people that love me. And then tell me why they love me, because they've never met me. You know, so everything I do is for them. I have 4 kids of my own. The thing that I'll just leave you with really quickly is that I'm an entrepreneur. I never chose this path with Little Warriors. It chose me. There is a whisper. And if we're quiet enough, we hear what it is. And that is the work that God calls us to do. So when you listen, it is there, because I never ever would have done this without listening to that whisper. And all of us are beautifully broken. We really, really are. But it is in our brokenness that we are game changers, that we make things happen because we understand darkness, we understand pain, we understand the end of our comfort zone. Right, and these 9 women, let me tell you, never met such more amazing women in my entire life. Thank you, God bless.